Hi everyone, AK here from the Mixpanel team, and today we're going to look at Google Accelerated Mobile Pages, or AMP pages, and using a proxy server that allows you to send native AMP analytics components from Google AMP pages to Mixpanel. We're going to use this proxy service to make our lives a lot easier, so let's get going. So I'm currently set up with a locally deployed Accelerated Mobile Pages app, and I have the code for this AMP page right here. I have an empty Mixpanel project. I have the code for the proxy, and I'm logged into my own Google Cloud Platform instance. Fundamentally, what we're going to do is set up a proxy server that lives in between your Google AMP pages and Mixpanel's ingestion servers and translates the data from the AMP pages through the proxy to a format where Mixpanel's ingestion servers are happy to take it. Now, a proxy server can be run in many different ways, and I have some one-click deploys for various cloud providers, as well as some instructions on manually deploying this proxy in GCP or in AWS. We're going to take the shortcut today and click the Run on Google Cloud button, which will take me right into Google Cloud and help me deploy this service. It will take a little bit of time for this service to spin up and deploy, but once it is done, you will get a service URL at the very end. This is the endpoint of our proxy, and this is where we're going to send data. So we've completed this first part of setting up the proxy. We are now ready to configure our front end to send data to the proxy. So there's two things that we have to do here. The first is within the open and closing header tag of our site, we need to include a required script. This required script is to enable the AMP Analytics custom element. So we will just copy this and head over to the source code for our application. Actually, I have it right here, so I'll just comment it back in. And the second thing that we will need to do is within the body tag, include the AMP Analytics component. We're going to follow the instructions for sending data to an in-house analytics server. In this case, we're sending to Mixpanel. And here we have like the minimum configuration required. So I'm actually going to copy all of this and we'll paste this into our site right around the closing body tag. You can see I have some scaffolding for it right here. So I'll just paste this whole thing in. Now, as you can imagine, there's just a couple of things we have to customize here. The first thing we have to customize is the address of our proxy. So I will grab the service URL from our proxy, paste it in here, do the same for the user endpoint as well. And the only other thing I need to do to get up and going is to add a Mixpanel token, the Mixpanel token from my Mixpanel project. So what I will do here is I will go to project settings and grab the Mixpanel token right here and paste that into my front end. This is all that I need to get started tracking page views. If we head back to the documentation, we can see that this example configuration is effectively the equivalent of initializing Mixpanel with your token and turning on automatic page view tracking. Let's just make sure that everything works. I will head back to my example AMP page here and just do a quick refresh. We actually see a new request go out to event that is going out to our proxy. We could see the payload and all the parameters that were sent, which is neat. As well as a response coming back from our proxy, which means that in Mixpanel, we have received a page view event. And that page view has our page title, the URL, the current URL, and if this were deployed on the internet, geo IP resolution would work just fine. Now that's very good, and that gets us a native page view event. The documentation explains how to do other things. But just as a for instance, let's say we wanted to be able to fire events for tracking link clicks or anchor tag clicks. I provide an example of a configuration that we can add. And so I'll just copy this configuration here. And if you actually scroll into the JSON, you can see there's this triggers section, and triggers are basically like listeners that allow you to do things. Like in this case, track anchor clicks. So on a click of any anchor or a tag, we're going to send an event. The event name is going to be clicked link. And for the sort of extra parameters or properties that we might use, we want the link URL here. It corresponds to any data variables that are part of the actual HTML element. So that's how we can get custom properties working. And now if I click on this link, we'll see an event went out to Mixpanel called clicked link. And in this case has that link URL that was from my HTML component. There's obviously lots more stuff that you can do with this AMP analytics component, and this proxy service supports all of the configurations and triggers that you'll find in the documentation. If you'd like to see a more robust example of a configuration in the examples in the repository, there's a full JSON configuration for different use cases you might have, such as tracking button clicks or scrolling position or creating user profiles. The last thing I'll say is that this configuration is intended to handle anonymous usage. So anonymous users across AMP cache pages or pages that are being served by your own origin. If you have an authenticated user use case where users can sign in or be logged in or otherwise become known, you'll want to set the user ID AMP analytics variable to the value of that user's canonical ID. If you set the user's ID, either using JavaScript or server-side rendering, to a value, like here I'll set it to AK, that will effectively tell Mixpanel that the user has a canonical ID. That will get sent to Mixpanel as the user ID, and it will join all that user's data together from their anonymous ID. If you have any problems or questions or concerns or feature requests, please just raise an issue on the repo and I will check that out. Thank you so much for watching.